Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Why, hello there, and welcome back.
So we want to thank our newest patrons, as we've had quite a few join us the last few days.
Yay, we're so happy about that. We want to say a huge thank you to JJ, Christine, Angela, Peter, and Michael. You guys really help us make this possible. Thank you.
Absolutely. And again, for deeper dives and a little more clarity speaking, join us over there, as we have a good time and we love to break things down, and there's so many things that as you're covering the news and looking for deeper insights, it might not take too much to put some things together. We're going to give an update on the Philippines situation, as it's still rocking and rolling. It's still shaking over there big time. But did you guys see this, that the Philippines government committee had voted to launch an investigation into over 327,000 unexplained excess deaths between 21 and 22? Yes, they had made this statement. They're going to do a investigation into the excess deaths, and then all of a sudden we have a 7.7 or 7.5, whatever it is, according to whichever service you put the most trust in. You know, when we look to Morocco, there were some things happening in Morocco right before the quake that happened in Morocco happened. And that was a deadly quake. And, you know, we've had a lot of deadly, quote unquote, natural disasters and waves. Yeah.
We have. I mean, if you look at these, it just seems to be really, really suspicious that, right before these things happen or right when they happen, well, somebody is speaking up and going against the narrative and saying, hey, this does not seem right. There are good souls out there that are trying to bring things to light, but this is what they're up against, and this is where we need to help.
So when we look to the area that the big quake came, now we have 103 quakes in a 24-hour period in this particular area, and a lot of them are very large. As you look through all these aftershocks, 5.1, 5.8, you see some in the 4s, quite a few in the mid-5s, 6.6, that's a biggie. As we go on down, lots of solid earth-shaking quakes here. And you got to wonder, here's what we have going on. There's another 6.2, another 6.2. What we have is 6.4. This is big. What we had was, obviously, you could look to the sun and say, well, duh, we all know that the sun affects the earth as far as earthquakes and volcanic activity. Then you could also say, well, we all know there's technology out there that can do the same. So is this just a pure coincidence that the Philippine government committee voted to launch an investigation into the excess deaths? It's just a coincidence because the sun did this? Or is there something else going on? Is this technology? Is it a combination of the two? Is it perhaps harnessing the energy that's flowing in from the sun in a directed way in order to give a warning or make a point?
Right. I think the key word there is harnessing, because these things happen anyway. They happen anyway. But if you're someone with certain technologies and you're in the know, you can give these energies a little bit of a shove, so that they do what they're going to do. And what they're sending is a message. This is like a threat, and this is what keeps happening, and they're making it so frighteningly obvious. This is a time where, maybe family members might be a little bit dysfunctional, and certain family members might have this problem or that problem. But when somebody's down, they pull together. They become very, very tight-knit, and they start to help each other out. And I think this is kind of where we're at as family, and understanding where the world is headed. We all have differences, but it's time to come together to help, because I feel a momentum coming that's good for positive, and I know so many others have as well. You know, Mike and I, we felt it, like, I guess a week ago or so. We felt something different, and it was really hitting home last night as well, that there is a shift taking place. It's very, very exciting, and we just need to keep going. We're like that snowball. It's like we finally got some traction. That's what I'm feeling.
Yeah, and the thing to recognize as we wake up, it's going to get a little bit more dangerous because, of course, that's the thing that the system doesn't want. They don't want you waking up. They don't want you understanding. I told you so many times that my big aha movement came when I was a teenager and I was doing in-depth biblical studies, and I realized in my mind, if I just simply take out God and put in extraterrestrials, it all makes sense. When humans disobey, they use their technology to create earthquakes, floods, or they'll send plagues. And we've covered so much of this over the years, and we're going to keep bringing it up because this is why we are here at this point in time. Here you have at least 100 vessels at Whitsun Reef. Most of them are rafted together in typical style of China's maritime militia. And this is within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, as China and the Philippines have been at odds over some of the better fishing areas. And again, the Philippines it's an island nation. There's thousands of islands. And of course, China is the dominant power over in that section of the world, and getting ready to be the dominant power on the planet. So is that another coincidence that we have all this tension? And when it breaks down and breaks out, there probably will be conflict between China and the Philippines. So that's just another thing to ask ourselves as we see UK-owned ship hit by rocket fire in the Dead Sea. And this was the one I believe they were thinking was coming from Yemen again. And then we got another one, Iranian Yemeni Houthis launched and hit an Israeli-owned cargo ship. It's a matter of time before there's a big incident. And of course, this is them just rolling the dice because they are trying to make big international incidents that will spiral out of control. Meanwhile, the world leaders are all making their way one by one in their private jets to clamp down on climate change and take away our freedoms, even more, whatever freedoms we have left in this world, while they are not doing anything to really, truly make a difference themselves. The hypocrisy is something that is really hitting, I think, the bulk of humanity at this point in time.
Well, people are getting tired of it, I mean, and then these controllers, they stand up on their podium and they say, well, I'm so very important, and that's why I deserve to go on my jet plane and go and be there in person, because look how much I have done. Look what I have done for humanity, and we all know darn good and well that they've done nothing but create a really bad situation for so many people. I don't want to say the G word, but that's what they've done. And they're all high and mighty about it, and they're still in power. And I think it's time for us to really ask ourselves why? And what can I do to help myself not contribute to their power?
Yeah. Put it this way, if you went and placed trust in a local used car shop and you bought a lemon from the guy, would you go right back and buy it again, buy another one? Would you keep going back? This is what we have with the system. The system is a lemon. The system is the problem. There really isn't any other problem but the system. The system is the entirety of the problem. So we can't look for the system to fix itself. And I was losing my train of thought. There was one other thing I wanted to bring up with just you could look to so many different scientific papers where they will bring up climate change. There was a rapid, sudden onset of climate change at various times in our history, thousands of years ago, before we had, in this particular version of this great RESET that we are in, we didn't have the technologies that would induce, the climate change according to what the history books say. We were just simple hunter-gatherers. We were, just kind of doing our thing. We weren't driving anywhere. We weren't flying anywhere. Again, this is what the history books say. The reality might be something quite different. And all of a sudden, there's rapid climate change that you cannot blame on coal, fossil fuels, which are not even fossil in the first place. This is the big reveal. Everything, it's a complete house of cards. And we're having these cards removed from the base of that house of cards, and it's going to all just collapse so fast. And it really is. It's hitting more and more people at just how stupid the system is. It doesn't make any logical sense in so many different areas that now, again, people are awakening to this and that of how bad it doesn't make any sense. And yet still so many sleepwalking sheeple just go through their lives never questioning anything, just lifting up their heads every now and then to give us a harumph. For those of you that follow Mel Brooks, harumph, 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 harumph. Oh, okay. Must be okay now. That guy harumphed. Supreme Court to consider quadrillion-dollar question in major tax case. They're going to hear oral arguments in early December on a case that has potential to reshape the tax code and take away hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue, even though there's trillions of dollars that just disappeared and they have no accounting of it. And in fact, there's corporations that haven't paid billions of dollars in taxes, and yet individuals, because the system is about keeping economic slavery in place. So, it could be a big aha moment, and you got to just pray for awakened judges that have the guts to go ahead. But we all know they were placed in positions because they've already agreed to the system. And you don't get out of the system when you've agreed to it at a very high level. And this is the lament of, as we were talking about David Bowie in that last video he did before he died, which we'll dissect. It's eerie, it's haunting, it feels nightmarish, and there's a reason, because he knows what's next for him when he's making this video. And he knows he's going to leave this world very soon because he did, in fact, sell his soul to Satan, so to speak.
You look at all these guys, and it makes it difficult for them to actually go out on a limb because, in essence, they're kind of taking each other down if they let these tax codes become fair and just. They're going to be losing a lot of their own money. So really, to me, when I've looked at courts, been involved in any type of court, anything, they all kind of hover together and they walk in lockstep to make sure that they have the income. So it doesn't matter if someone's, plaintiff, defendant. That doesn't matter. What matters is the lawyers are getting paid and the judge is getting paid, and they need to create a certain amount of trauma for people because they need the income. So I'll be really super shocked if anything happens, because it would be like they would be kind of eating themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah, in my mind, the only fair taxes are no taxes,
right?
Because the whole tax system is parasitic in its own very nature. And some might say, well, then how are you going to pay for government? Well, no government.
Right.
What's well, you're talking about anarchy. Yeah, anarchy, one of the definitions is there is no central government. We work things out on an individual basis together, but it doesn't mean we need to place into place people that can be corrupted by levels of power, be tempted by having excess authority, and then ultimately not want to give up those positions because they're used to having more and being better off than the bulk of people. And no, we're not talking about communism per se, because, communism is part of the controller's philosophy book, just like capitalism is, just like democracy is, just like the whole concept of republic is. These are all their terms. We have to think outside the box entirely to create something new. And here we have another pilot incapacitated. There's been a lot of these. American Airlines flight. This was from Paris, France to Philadelphia. Pilot had seizure and collapsed. And so, yeah, that's scary. Pilot had a seizure that stiffened his legs and back, jamming his feet under rudder pedals on a short final approach. The captain immediately took over flying duties. No loss of aircraft control. The relief pilot, who was required to be on the flight deck during the landing, was able to remove the unconscious pilot from the seat. Fourth pilot incapacitation in 2 weeks. This is also part of how there won't be any flying. And when you think about this, we've touched on this many times, and you could see statements from the control system about this. The era of, hey, honey, let's go to Paris and let's go to Fiji. Just being able to pack up and you have the money, or you're going to go ahead into deeper debt slavery and you're going to put it on a card, pay it off later. Let's go do it. You won't be able to, because, again, this is going to be something for the elites only. And at that point in time, they won't be using flights like we are now. Everything is going to change. This is a statue made from a meteorite. So this is interesting, is it not? It's actually made from something that comes from somewhere else. The Buddha from space. This is 24 centimeters high, 1,000-year-old at least statue. It's one of the rarest in the world. The artifact was looted by Nazi Germany from Tibet in 1930s. Oh, they were looking for all sorts of goodies. Oh, yes, because they understand how the world works, because they were working with the quote-unquote fallen Pleiadians that really control the governments. And again, it's the governments. There's levels to this, and so many people believe that, the agreements that Eisenhower made, there was no interference before that. We were actually, free and everything was on the up. But no, it was never on the up and up. This control system has been in place for thousands of years. When did it first get put in place? That's a good question. We don't have an exact answer. But I would say it's safe to say that what we have in place is probably between 4,000 and 5,000 years old minimum. And then again, it's cyclical. So we come back into these time zones where the dark side takes over. They know that they're gaining in strength and power and ability, and they start to slowly take over. And then now we're in the part where they're going to start to slowly go the other way. They're losing their grip. So they want to basically see how many people they could get to hang around with them. So this is interesting. The material had been dated to the time of the Chinga meteorite event, which fell near eastern Siberia, Mongolia, between 10,000 and 20,000 years ago. And look at that. This is the only icon that we know of. As you can see, he's got a shining crown chakra here. He's got a heck of an aura around him. So again, they're depicting somebody that is not typical human, but he looks human, you might say. He certainly does look human. Again, he's Vaisravana is what he's named. He's a deity. Now, we start saying deity. Really, we should just switch out these names of gods and deities and just say, hey, this is a more advanced being from somewhere else.
I like that. It takes away the mystique of it all, because we all have these abilities where we can be exceptional. We simply have to work on it. This calling him a deity is saying, well, yeah, he's done a lot of work and he's earned that title. And he has abilities and he can do things that might seem godlike, but that definitely does not make him a god. However, if he can do these things and he can show other people how to do these things, be a good entity, a good being, and express his love and take his energy and use it for good, then yeah, I mean, an exceptional being, a master of sorts. But by no means, the title God and deity, I think that puts things over the edge a little bit, but that's not to say they didn't do a lot of work.
Yeah, and again, I wanted to get this across, even though we could delve into just him, this one particular being, and fill up a really long video because it is fascinating. Again, he's recognized in multiple traditions, so you can find mention of him in the Buddhist scriptures, in the Hindu scriptures, and you could even find reference of him in other traditions as well. So he's thought to be the guardian of the northern direction. His home is in the northern quadrant of the topmost tier of the lower half of Mount Sumeru. He is the leader of all the Yaksas who dwell on Sumeru's slopes. And Yaksas is a familiar term, I should say, as I was reading about his face there. When we start going into these words that are talking about different beings, they really are different races of beings, different beings from different places, different star systems. And this is so clearly spoken of in, again, the Hindu texts. I keep going back to the Hindu texts, and if people would just go into them, or Buddhists as well, just go into them and read these quote unquote stories with an open mind, and it's going to hit you so obviously that what we're talking about here is extraterrestrials, some benevolent, some malevolent. It makes perfect sense. And instead, you have 2/3 of the world that focuses in on either the Bible or the Quran without looking deeper into these other sources, which give details that you're just not going to find there because they've been taken out on purpose. They can't have you knowing, the reality of this because, again, the ultimate controllers are not from here. But it's interesting, too, because as with all Buddhist deities, Vasavana is properly the name of an office rather than a permanent individual. So when we're talking about, let's go into Indra. Indra is thought to be the top tier god of a certain tier of gods, a more imminent deity in some ways than some of the other ones. When I say that, I mean more visible, more human-like, closer to our density in so many ways, and that is a post. Because it even says when you go into the Hindu scriptures that there is an Indra for this age, there will be an Indra for another age. And then it even says that about beings like Vishnu and Brahma and Shiva. Well, again, there's a lot of disagreements in many different aspects of all these. As you can see, there's the Theravada Buddhist tradition, and then you have other traditions as well. There's not perfect agreement, but there are some understandings that, again, what we're talking about in many ways are not particular individuals, but you're talking about an office. So it's like saying the president. Okay, well, this one is the prime minister. This one is somebody on the Supreme Court. This one is a local governor. So when we're talking about Indra, you're talking about some a little bit more of a local deity.
Right. So, to me, it sounds like you have these titles like, Dr. Mr., Mrs. to a lesser degree. So I'm always looking at stuff like this saying, as above, so below. So, we have their system in many ways.
Absolutely. And when we look to Buddha, again, Buddha it's an enlightened one, of which there's been more than one. So again, it's like, anointing somebody with the highest level PhD you can imagine. But yes, all these deities, they're really either extraterrestrials, interdimensional beings, or they're beings that hold some sort of position in the natural world. So when we talk about El from the Bible, and you'll see El is the chief Canaanite storm god. Well, it makes perfect sense, because when Cindy is scanning and feeling into the energy of El, she sees a cloud. She sees a consciousness in a cloud, because he is part of the natural order. El is part of the programming of this natural original matrix.
Well, it's a cloud, and others can tap into that and utilize it.
Yes. So that's programming that was put there by the creator of this universe for anybody to tap into. So when you pray to El, or you could say in other terms, when you use your intention to connect to El, because we got a drought going, please send rain, focus on rain, and then it rains, people would, say, oh, bless El, El. He's heard our prayers. But in reality, what it is you've tapped into the system, you've initiated something that's already pre-programmed into the system, and you've gotten the desired effect.
We can all do that.
This is, one of the terms is magic, and the elites understand how this works. Now, when they switched, and this is going totally off in a different tangent, but I just want to share this, because when you see in some places it's no longer El, it's Elohim, and then we're talking about mighty ones, rulers. It's a plural word that we might take as meaning the same thing. And you could stretch it to say, multiple natural forces that have been put in place by the actual programmer, so to speak, to use today's computer lingo, of this matrix, of this universe. So if we believe that the being known as Vishnu, you could say again, that's part of his natural programming as the creator of this universe. But yet what we have really is a group of beings being well, let's just say they're getting recognized using that terminology, but they're not of the natural order, so to speak. They're just, again, beings that came to the planet in order to utilize it for its resources, and part of the Draconian Empire, the Anunnaki, the Ujiji. So, they end up getting that label. Sometimes labels are given to multiple beings, and they're not really truly accurate. And then there's distortions that come into effect because of this. As time goes on, they interweave these things purposely in their books and traditions, and lines become blurred, and we have all of a sudden new meanings to the original words that don't give the original connection to what is being spoken about. I hope I made that clear.
I think so. To me, I look at this, and it clears the blurred line when it comes to the natural world and the unnatural world, the organic versus what the draconian controllers are creating, because we don't have to go down that path, but they have their technology, and they're hoping that people are going to pick that path, because then they have their energy harnessed. But we are free beings. We can utilize the natural world, and that's why we're always saying stay organic.
Absolutely. So then when you look at the third word that's used, and you see Yahweh or Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, that then is another usurpation, and it's again switching from the natural order into one of the controllers' energies that then is supplanting the original nature, force of nature that's spoken of, with an individual energy that could be tapped into by the control system itself. And so I hope I got that across properly. So here you have, and we have seen, and we've shown you guys almost identical to this, but something that looks more like an elephant. So, here you can see this video. It's not going to play for me there. They're talking about, are these tissues in so many cases? Are these tissues? And we have, and look at this. You could so easily see a nose, a mouth. I mean, part of the reason is because yes, these are beings. Now again, Tiamat is what Earth is taken from. And Tiamat was much larger than Earth. Much, much larger. The beings on Tiamat were much, much, much larger than Earth. So again, Earth is just a small little fraction of what Tiamat was. And here is the anomic artifact, earliest known depiction of Quetzalcoatl. And I mean, it doesn't take much imagination. There's the Manny purse. Doesn't matter if it's a, over here in Latin America, Central America, or if we see the quote unquote deities over in Mesopotamia, they always seem to have their Manny purses, which again, some sort of technology, but he certainly looks like he's got a helmet on. Certainly looks like he's in some sort of flying machine, and he is humanoid. But then again, a lot of these beings, they will look humanoid, but when you look at their skin, it can be very much more reptilian or avian.
Yeah, it's very different.
Very different. So, again, flying serpent. I mean, our history is something that we truly, it's mind-blowing for people to realize as you look at mantid beings. And a lot of mantid beings have been lumped into the dark side. But there are benevolent and those that are fighting against the dark side that are helping the Galactic Federation as well. And if you ever look into the eyes of a praying mantis, you can't help but see the intelligence in there.
I know there is definitely a lot of energy going on there.
There is. And so many beings have sown the seeds from their star systems into Earth. So what we have with Earth is a conglomeration of many beings from many different places, many different versions of the beings from many different places, and again, a lot of the different life forms that are on these different star systems. They've come to Earth to come together. As we see, Kitty made a big mistake. Kitty made a big mistake. What's going on? And over here we have one smart horse. Do not underestimate animals. Again, animals, they have the same souls that we do. They're just in different vehicles. This is part of the distortion that the system creates.
I know. I mean, they make connections. They have reasoning. They know when they're being treated badly. When you work with horses, it's like you do have to find that level of respect, and it's just that, it's respect and it's trust. Horses are prey animals, so it's very, very important that you gain their trust when you're going to work with them. And never forget, they are extremely psychic, so you got to work with your mind and your heart and work with pictures when you're working with them. I think so many animals are like that. It seems like horses are really magnified when it comes to that energy and working with them.
Absolutely. So stay prepared, guys. Have your bug out bags ready like this little guy does, just in case. But yes, ground and root daily, and we thank you for being part of the family. Source bless. Namaste.
Namaste.